Hey everyone, we've got a brand new episode of In the Money with Amber Kanwar. This is a really special episode. It is all about handbags. Now, I don't want the finance bros to tune out because we talk about them as an investment. If you're going to buy a Chanel and Hermès, what's the best bag? What's the best way to get access? Producer Jillian is here. We did this interview with the CEO of ShopThing, and it was so eye-opening.
I learned a lot. I learned a lot in this episode because I know a lot more about stocks than I do about handbags. So it was really useful. And what I really liked about it is that, she kind of explained that you could buy a handbag now, a luxury handbag, and use it and wear it and look good, and you can make money later. And I think that was really key for me.
You hear that, girls? This is a money-making episode about buying handbags. So let's get into it. The information provided in this podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute financial, investment, or professional advice. The views expressed by the host and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of any organization or company. The host and the guests may maintain positions in any securities discussed on the podcast. Always consult a qualified financial advisor or professional before making any investment decisions. This episode is sponsored by BMO InvestorLine. Investing can be intimidating, but it doesn't have to be. With BMO InvestorLine, you have the tools and resources you need to make informed decisions and build a successful portfolio. Their easy-to-use platform packed with research tools and commission-free trading on over 100 popular ETFs can help you take control of your financial future. Learn more at bmo.com/online investing. Maggie Adhami-Boynton, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
That'll be the last time I use your full name to address you. I'll just go by Maggie.
Perfect.
And I sort of became aware of you. I don't know if you remember, we shared a stage at the Canadian Innovation Exchange, and that's where like 20 companies are selected as the most innovative. I don't remember all of the other companies, and we didn't even talk, but I remember thinking, wow, what Maggie's doing is super cool with ShopThing. Can you explain what ShopThing is?
Yes. So we are a luxury marketplace powered by video. Sounds really fancy, but really we are just like a QVC meets TikTok. So we have sellers, whether they're full-time influencers or consignment stores or brands or retailers, distributing their product via live video. So really selling their goods in 30 to 60 second short video clip.
So it's like the Home Shopping Network. You can buy it through social media as well.
You got it.
How'd you come up with this?
I want to say that I invented it, but I didn't. I borrowed the idea from China. So in Asia, live shopping is a massive phenomenon. And actually, prior to this, I've always worked in technology, but my passion was always fashion and style and retail. And so I came across this trend of live shopping in Asia where they literally sell everything from banana holders to pancakes to houses to rocket launches. Believe me, rocket launches. And I was so enamored with this idea and perplexed that it didn't exist in North America. So I was like, this is my, light bulb moment where I can actually take the thing that I love the most and combine it with what I know the most, which is tech.
And we're going to talk about how people can view these things as investments because, in theory, this is an investment podcast. And I promise I'm going to make it investable. But I also love founder origin stories. And I love, that decision to take such a risk because you were in tech before. Like, what kind of stability did you give up to start your own company? What was it, back in 2018?
Yes, exactly. So most people would start a company, prior to when they have kids or a mortgage or a husband. I had a 6-month-old at home and 2 other children and decided, this is the time. And I'll tell you, there were probably 5 or 6 other companies in the past that I've dreamt up that I hadn't taken that leap on, whether I didn't feel like I was confident enough or I didn't think I could do it at the time. And at this time, I was working as a VP of operations for a pretty big company in Toronto. And I was like, what is the worst thing that can happen? I will give up 1 year's salary of my life. And if it doesn't work, I have a great resume. I'm really marketable. I'll go back into the job market. Fortunately, I didn't have to do that. But it was just like the risk that I decided it was the right time to take. I had been too scared.
I'm sorry. You had already 3 children, one that was 6 months old. I have 3 kids too. I don't know that I had that same, let's go start a company after that. There is something though about 3 kids that you're just like, what else could happen? Like,
Add another one.
Add another one. Because like another business is like another child.
Oh, way more demanding.
So what's the growth? What have you seen? What were the initial kind of hiccups and where are you at now?
Yeah. So when we launched in 2018, we started sort of piloting the concept. 2019, Black Friday, we decided to launch a business, which, you know, maybe not the smartest idea to launch a business on Black Friday in the retail space, but we're like, whatever, we're going to do it.
It sounds like a great idea.
Sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
Actually, it did not go badly. It was great. Fantastic Black Friday, went into January, February, March. Then March 2020 hit. The world closed down.
Yeah.
In those early days, our entire business was going into store. We were, you know, that sort of bridge and that gap between retail.
You were
online
doing
retail, and
live
physical.
shopping in
stores
before 2020.
Correct.
Oh, so you hadn't yet done that whole.
We hadn't done
social
anything yet.
media.
We were just in stores doing live shopping, posting it on Instagram. And when stores closed, I was like, oh my gosh, I just got a lease on a big space in downtown Toronto, not cheap, in March. Signed it March 1st, March 15th, March 20th, whatever that date was, everything shut down. I'm like, I don't have a business anymore. What am I going to do?
You've got those aforementioned 3 kids.
I have aforementioned 3 kids. I now have this massive lease, which is like obviously weighs down on you. The whole world shut down. We spent probably about 2 months trying to figure out how do we pivot this to B2B because I couldn't go into store anymore. And then by the time we started trying to think about that, conceptualize it, this wonderful thing happened. Some stores started opening back up, but stores didn't have the foot traffic because consumers were not comfortable, didn't feel comfortable going back into store. And so our business just exploded. We went from selling $50,000 a month to 100 to 200 to 500 to $1 million. Like very quickly, we went from trying to prove product market fit to figuring out how to scale this business. I was still fulfilling everything out of my basement. And my husband was like, get this out of my house. I'm like, Jeff Bezos did it. I can do it too. He was like, absolutely not.
I don't think you did it with a mini Kelly bag though.
No, absolutely not. He was like, I need this stuff out of my house. Please get yourself another office because we had subleased the one that we had downtown. And so it happened so fast. And so we went from product market fit to scale in the span of 6 months.
That's insane because also, sorry, I just like know what that period of time was like with kids. Yeah. Also, your kids were home. Your business is exploding. Yeah. You're in a basement. You've got this lease. How did you what is your advice to founders who find that themselves in that moment where all of a sudden it opens up, but you're the risk now?
Yeah.
Right? You might not be able to scale up. Looking back, reflecting, what was the key to getting through that period? Being
a founder is not for the faint of heart. You have to be willing to do anything and everything. And if that, you being the risk is a risk, that's a problem. You can't. You have to be willing to literally put everything in your life aside to push forward, especially when you have those unlock moments, because they're rare and they don't happen often. But when you have that, you just have to put everything behind it, which is literally what we did. We're like, let's do everything we can because the growth is explosive right now.
And the business is not just Canadian.
No.
Where are you around the world?
So we sell across the US and Canada. So our customers are Canada, US, but our distribution is global. So we have sellers in Beijing, Tokyo, Dubai, Milan, Dublin, Paris, you name it, we have it.
So you've got this trend, this structural trend, people buying more things online, buying things through influencers. Like that's where my wardrobe comes from now, is following these people so they can tell me what's cool. And I admit that freely. But that's still a luxury good item. And right now, sorry to bring this back to business, but right now we're in an environment where inflation has really taken a bite. And there are questions around whether people can afford this sort of luxury item.
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's interesting because we are in the luxury space, but we are off-price luxury. So we are, whether that's a resale item like a pre-loved bag or clothing, or whether that is, we work with there's 4 global distributors for off-price inventory for Dolce & Gabbana. We work with one of them. So that inventory then gets passed down at 80-90% off. And so sometimes we're actually very attainable. Actually, often we're very attainable. And then the other thing that you see that's very interesting that has happened in our business is now we have this side of the marketplace where anybody can sell. So if you wanted to sell your closet, you could go on there to sell. So what we're seeing more and more is in times like this, in these types of markets, people tend to go and sell their goods.
And you get a cut of that.
Exactly. You got it. Yeah.
Okay. Now we get to the investing part. I'm trying to say this is like an investable show and you can invest in handbags, But really, can you invest in handbags? Do they go up in value? We're going to go through specific bags for sure, but broad strokes, is this kind of a quasi asset class?
The finance bros are going to kill me. Okay. I'm just going to, don't come for me. Okay. Just let me be. Some bags, yes. Would I put $100,000 into bags versus property? Probably not. But
if you're going to buy a bag,
yes, there are ones that will appreciate in value or will hold their value, and there are ones that don't. And I think we'll go through some of the specifics, but if you are going to buy it, and it's a little bit of girl math for me, I think if I can buy a bag today for $1,000 and use it for 5 years and sell it for even $1,000 5 years from now, I have made money. Again, finance bros will kill me because they're like, you haven't made any money, but I've been able to use that bag for $0. So for me, I've made money.
And accountants will love it because you're using depreciation.
There you go. Accountants will love me. Finance bros will hate me.
Finance bros will hate you. Okay. So what about like the waves that are being made by all these discount brands that are coming in? What are they calling Walmart's version of the Birkin? The workin. And like how that was going to be potentially devastating. We've seen imitation before. Like this is not something new. Do you think the Walmart bag is new, is kind of game changing and like destroys this view that luxury is necessary?
I don't think it does. I do, however, think in markets like this, we are seeing big luxury brands suffering. We are seeing it. They've taken a big hit last year and the year before that. And obviously it is because people can't afford it as much as they could before, even though luxury is usually insulated from recession. However, I think there has been a ton of price increases as well, and people are just being a little bit more mindful about where they're spending their money. I don't think the work-in or those imitation bags is going to really change the industry all that much. But I do believe we will see a bit of a shift in luxury over the next few years, as especially Gen Z is becoming more, they're just a little bit smarter about how they're spending their money, and they prefer experiences to goods.
What can brands do to be that good investment bag?
I think some brands like a Chanel are trying to mimic what Hermès has done in limiting their supply, increasing their price, sort of making themselves out of the reach of the normal consumer, which in theory does drive a bit of that investment up. I don't know if there's anything really beyond that you can do.
Just good old-fashioned scarcity.
Literally, it's just supply and demand.
All right, let's dip into the mailbag. All right, here we go. Our first question, speaking about price hikes, is from Paige. With the outrageous price hikes at designer labels, with something like a Lady Dior, or will something like a Lady Dior hold its value? And how long can these labels continue to hike prices before getting resistance from consumers?
Yeah, so specifically, I will say Lady Dior, worst investment.
Worst investment?
Worst. Never, ever buy Dior. Actually, never buy Dior at full price.
Why?
It has one of the lowest resale markets on the values on the resale market. So that Lady Dior bag that you buy for $9,000, it gets resold on the market for $2,000 to $4,000. So it loses a ton, and instantly, not like years later. If you buy it today and try and sell it brand new, you're losing $4,000 or $5,000 as soon as you walk out the store. So I would not buy Dior at full price.
No.
Ever.
Can they do anything to change that? Like, what if all of a sudden Kim Kardashian is like, that's all she wears?
It could totally be that. I think one of the things I get asked a lot is how do these brands come into this like superstardom? And there's a few things. One is influencers. So it could be Sophia Richie. We've seen her be really influential over the last few years. Before that, it would have been like a Kylie Jenner, Kim Kardashian, whoever. One is that. And then one is the brand's creative director and sort of the vision they take for the brand has a big input on or impact on how the brand gets used by the consumer and how big it becomes. So absolutely, it could be. It just, Dior does not have that today.
All right. I love this. Sometimes I struggle to get guests to be so definitive. We're definitive right off the bat. Our second question is from Ines. Which Fendi Peekaboo would you recommend?
Mini. Always the mini. And I'm going to say this about every brand. If you want to hold the most amount of value in your bag, you go with the smallest sizes.
You need to hold the least amount of things in your bag.
The less the bag can fit, the better its resale value.
That's insane. Is that just because small bags are cool right now?
Or you got it.
Okay.
Yeah. They're very trendy. And it's not even just a right now thing. It's been for the last 10 years. But if you look at any brand, a mini Chanel flat bag, a mini Kelly, a mini Lady Dior also holds the best value from all the Lady Dior bags, or even a Peekaboo. I'd go mini.
I wonder if that line from Succession killed large bags, the ludicrously capacious bag. And now Probably did.
Although I will say big bags are back in style. Okay. So the Rome Margot bag is a massive bag. It is very trendy, very expensive. You know, Birkins can go up to 35, 40s, but they don't hold the same value in the resale market as small bags do.
Our third question comes from Roberta. Is Louis Vuitton making a comeback?
Yes and no. I will say Pharrell being the creative director has given it a little bit more life in the last couple of years. And some bags like the Neverfull have now been kind of waitlisted. They took them off the site. So the ability to buy them online was gone and there was a bit of a scarcity there. But mainstream, I'm going to say no.
Okay, definitive. We're going to take a quick break. We've got more questions on the other side of it. For over 25 years, Raymond James has been helping Canadians achieve their financial goals. They are Canada's largest independent financial services firm with over 520 dedicated advisors, $88 billion in assets under management, and capital market services. With no proprietary product to push, their advisors are free to focus on the unique needs of their clients. Whether you're saving for your children's education, preparing for retirement, or safeguarding wealth for future generations, Raymond James is committed to guiding you every step of the way. Visit raymondjames.ca today to discover how you can live a life well planned. Okay, we're back with Maggie and we're still in the mailbag here. Having seen vintages from many eras in your shop, have you discovered that brands have maintained high quality or some have taken a hit? Some brands have been sold to larger fashion houses. Has this affected purse manufacturing standards and product quality? This one's coming from Leslie.
So Leslie, absolutely, quality has changed. And I wouldn't even say it's only because they've been sold. Because you look at somebody like a Chanel, they've had at least 10 price hikes since 2020, maybe even more. And what I've heard and what I've seen personally is that their quality has gone down. And then there are other fashion houses like an Hermès that live and breathe by their quality. They want you to own that piece of leather good for your entire life that haven't changed. But we have seen a ton of brands just switch to different manufacturing.
And so does that affect, or does Chanel still have the cachet? And even though from your view, quality has gone down, can that still be an investment bag?
It can absolutely still be an investment bag. It sucks for the consumer because the quality has gone down. Now, Chanel has done things like they've introduced a Chanel A Moi, which is their sort of like restoration services so that you can go in and you can potentially keep your bag living for a longer amount of time. But it does suck for the consumer. You don't want to buy a $10,000 handbag and then the turn lock come off in a month or 6 months or a year.
And they're not fixing it for you anymore.
Yeah.
A lot of these brands, that customer service has gone out the window. And we're going to talk, if you've got $10,000, where should you invest it? That's coming up in Pro Picks. This also made me think about those maybe more like affordable luxury brands. Can those be investable or not really?
Not really. So when I think about that, I think about like a Jacquemus. Beautiful, trendy, modern, still French luxury. But, you know, you're buying it, you're not selling it for what you bought it for. You're selling it for at least 50% of the value.
Another question we got is there any eras or brands that you would avoid? Obviously, that Christian Dior lady bag.
I would not avoid it. I love Dior and I own a lot of Dior. Just buy it on the pre-loved market. Yeah. That's the best value. And actually, if you buy it on the pre-loved market, chances are you can sell it for what you bought it for or more later on. Just don't buy it brand new from store. There are. And again, I'm going to go back to the comment I made earlier about influencer and creative director having a big sway over the brands. If you asked me 10 to 12 years ago, I would not have touched Fendi with a 10-foot pole. I own so much Fendi right now. If you asked me 10, 12 years ago, I would not have touched Bottega with a 10-foot pole. But then you had Danielle Lee come in and he completely, modernized the brand, came up with a ton of designs like the pouch and the cassette and the Lido slides that like completely changed the brand. So that's huge. And then there are the brands that, influencers really push forward. And then there are
What
some
about when
creative
something
directors.
gets into controversy? Was it Balenciaga with their controversial campaign? So what happens in the resale market when something like that happens?
It goes down. The price of the bag goes down significantly. Now, we know these things don't last very long. Balenciaga has already started to make a comeback. Kim Kardashian already jumped back onto their marketing and advertising. It doesn't last long. It's like 1 to 2 year kind of thing, and then they'll come back into play. But then you have some brands like Gucci that's a, big fashion house, been around for a long time, one of the oldest. And right now, I wouldn't touch Gucci.
Wow. Because they're just not getting any value out of it.
It's just, the creative director just took them in a very eccentric way. Actually, this is a great example. Very eccentric, tons of logo, really out there. It thrived up until I would say about 2021. And then what happened was Sophia Richie came out with this like old money, quiet luxury aesthetic. One influencer changed it all. And now all of a sudden, nobody wanted logos. They wanted the Bottega bags because they have no logo, but they didn't want the Gucci bags that had monogram all over it.
This is just like stocks, right? This is
It's
kind
just
of
like
like this
stocks.
is just
You
like
got it.
stocks. Yeah, the finance pros are not going to like this. You're right, especially us saying bags. They're just like stocks, except you can put stuff in them. Okay, this other question is coming from Haley. When purchasing a designer item as an investment, do you need to keep it in a bag, in your closet, or can you actually use these bags?
Depends on the bag and depends on how much value you want. So, example, Mini Kelly, or actually any Hermès bag, most Hermès bags, the minute you walk out of the store, it is worth at least 2 to 3x more than what you paid for it. So, finance bros, that's an investment. However, you can still use that Birkin and sell it. You just can't sell it for that same value. So, you won't be able to sell it for 3x because it's not in pristine condition, but you can buy it for $12,000 and sell it, $15,000 used in X number of years.
This next 2 questions come from Laura. Given Chanel's historical price increases and resale market trends, do you think buying new now is a better investment, or would a well-maintained pre-owned bag offer better value in the long run?
I'll tell you what I've done. Your listeners are the best. I love them. I'll tell you what I have done. Being somebody that lives and breathes luxury and has access to it like up the wazoo, I pretty much only buy Chanel bags in the resale market now. Pristine, in like new condition, because I'm also very picky about my bags. I like them to be in excellent condition. But because I can get it for 30%, 40% less, even in pristine condition, I'll do that every day of the week. Because
now here's a question. You bought it for 30% off. Let's say you hold it for 5 years. Would you be able to resell that Chanel bag for higher?
Yes.
Or at least get your money back?
Exactly.
Wow.
And that's finance bros. That's why we do that. We buy it on the resale market for less. We hold it and we sell it in a few years for more.
Okay.
Absolutely.
This is like arbitrage stuff. I love it. Okay. Last question from the mailbag before we get into pro picks. Are authentication services keeping up with super fakes becoming more common? Like, how do you do it?
Yeah, they are. They absolutely are. So I will tell you, I have seen and touched super fakes, ones that I had deemed authentic. And when they go through the authentication services, they come back as counterfeit. So there's a few ways they do it. One is AI, which, AI sees hundreds of thousands of images. They can detect, it's crazy, Amber, they can detect leather quality.
From a picture.
Correct. Leather quality. Like when you hear that, you're like, oh my God, that's insane. Fine. You can detect like stamping and logo and font, but leather quality is insane. So they can detect that. And of course, there's some level of error with those, but then there's also specialized. So there's specialized services that will do pricier bags. So if you're looking for your Hermès bags, there are specialized humans whose sole job it is to look at, even via picture, but their sole job it is to look at these bags and authenticate them.
Great questions. Everybody's super smart about it.
Really good question.
And now we're going to get into pro picks. Pro Picks is brought to you by ATB Financial. With $62 billion in assets, ATB Financial is powering possibilities for more than 820,000 financial services clients in Alberta and beyond. ATB's capital markets arm is a full-service investment dealer that offers investment and corporate banking, sales and trading, institutional research, and risk management. Visit atb.com/inthemoney for more information. Okay, here we are, Pro Picks. We've got Maggie Adhami-Boynton with ShopThing, and you're going to tell us the best bags to invest in.
Can't wait.
The first one, and we've alluded to this one, is the Hermès Mini Kelly. And we have one here. We have the pink one up here. Kate, talk to me about why this is a no-brainer.
No brainer. This is the bag that when you walk out of the store, it goes up 3x in value the minute you walk out of the store. In fact, people probably outside of the Hermès store would be begging you to buy that bag off of you.
I know people who have been approached, like just right if they're lucky enough to have one. Now, here's my question: how do you get one in the first place?
You absolutely cannot. So the caveat to this, the reason why it is so valuable is you cannot obtain it. You cannot walk into a store. For those of you that know, Hermès doesn't just offer you bags. In most countries, you have to build some sort of purchase history with them. You probably have to spend at least the value of the bag to be offered the bag.
Which is how much?
The Mini Kelly, I think, is about 9 or 10K USD right now, which is not bad, but they won't offer you that if you only spend 9 or 10K. They will offer you other bags. They'll give you maybe a Birkin 30 or a Kelly 28 or a Kelly 32. In order to get a Mini Kelly, you probably have to spend at least 60-ish K in store before they offer it to you.
And that's it? Or is there like something else? Do they need to? Because I feel like I've had friends who go in and they kind of, it's like an interview. They need to feel an essence about you.
Absolutely. It is a game that you have to play over the span of years. It is not again, Hermès is not for the faint of heart also. You have to really commit to the brand. You have to love the brand. You have to be willing to buy their ready-to-wear, their jewelry, their home, everything.
So on your site, on ShopThing, like how do you come by, like how rare are they on the resale market?
Not that rare. You're going to pay a pretty penny for it. But I will tell you, because I actually had an anecdote that you'll love. So a friend of mine in a mutual community of mine, she has a private Hermès sales associate in Paris. So she, gave that sales associate to her friend. In order for her friend to be offered a bag, her friend had to spend $100,000 in jewelry and then was offered, and she was able to buy 2 bags, but they were also expensive bags. So instead of spending $100,000 in jewelry that you don't need, it makes more sense to just buy it at $30,000 in the resale market.
And they're good quality. Like they're generally not like slammed around.
No.
bags.
When you're paying that much for them, they're in pristine condition. You can get pre-loved ones that are a little bit cheaper that have been used, but in pristine condition, you're usually paying about 3x its value.
And do they they're not overt about it? Like spend this amount and then you
They're
just kind of have to.
Not. You just have to do it. You have to do it until you get offered the bag. It's obscene.
And people, the way they talk about their sales associate, it's like almost like it's kind of jealously guarded, is it not?
Absolutely. They will not share sales associates. It's a game.
That's a reality show. Maybe it is. I don't watch enough Housewives.
It probably is a reality show. But my advice would be don't waste the money on the stuff that you don't need from Hermès. Just buy it on the resale market.
Okay, the second one is a Chanel Classic flat bag. And so you have one here. So why this particular bag? Because in our conversation, we've learned some Chanels can go down. Maybe the quality has gone down. So how do you pick your Chanels?
Yeah, the reason why I think this one is a great investment piece is because it has gone up in value so much just over the last 5 years. So the one that we're looking at right now has gone from $7,000 to about $15,000. So 2x in the span of maybe 6 years. So for me, that's a great investment piece.
And why is it?
Because Chanel decided to raise their prices. I think it is, they're trying to compete with Hermès. They want to have that same sort of scarcity model. They have now come up with this, you can only buy 2 classic bags per year. So they're also trying to put quotas on their bags so that they can be at that sort of Hermès level. But I would still consider it a classic and an investable piece. Even if you buy it on the resale market, as you said, it will go up. If you buy it brand new, you're not going to be able to sell it right away. But if you hold that bag, if I'd bought that bag 6 years ago for $6,000, I'd be able to sell it for more today.
There's an order to these as well. We're going small, medium, and then your final one is that Louis Vuitton Never Full, which I feel like that's a classic Louis Vuitton functional bag, but you also say is an investment.
So classic, so functional. The reason why I put this on my investment piece is because, again, of how much the value has risen over the last few years, and it holds its resale value very well. So, example, I bought mine. Actually, it was my diaper bag. Ladies, buy yourself a beautiful designer tote, put an insert in it, and when you're done with your babies, you take out the insert and it's like brand new, like you've never used it.
You had a Louis Vuitton diaper bag.
I sure did.
There you go.
I sure did.
You were probably so intimidating at those mommy and me circles.
Nobody wanted to talk to me. Is this why?
We're learning something.
We're learning lots. But I bought that bag maybe for $1,100. It now resales for, in the resale market, $1,500 plus. And I think brand new, it's about $2,400-$2,500.
This brings up an interesting question. How long typically do you have to hold to see a return? I mean, you said with the Mini Kelly, you could just do it 4 hours from when you bought it.
Literally.
But like, what's a typical hold
I
period?
would say probably 5 years is safe. And anything above that is even better.
Okay, and before we go, I have to ask about color because you brought like this beautiful pastel pink Mini Kelly. Like, what's the safest way to go? Should you buy an outrageous color? Should you go neutral, something a bit more classic and timeless?
Safest for investment is always neutral, but there are some colors that are very coveted. So the pale pastel pink that you're seeing is Rose Sakura, which is a very coveted color in the Hermès world. And they're harder to come by. So the classics are produced more often versus the rare. And then there's this whole concept of like a horseshoe stamp. I don't know if you've heard of this, but it is that elite client that spends a ton of money will get the chance to custom make their Hermès bag. So those tend to be
do that?
Not me.
You're
not me,
there
that's
yet.
for sure.
Like a celebrity or like you?
No,
like
you just have to spend a lot.
a lot. Like a Beyonce level, or can you be more mundane than that?
Did you see that whole Instagram shenanigan that happened where Cardi B really wanted an Hermès bag? She wanted an Himalayan, I think it was a croc, and she couldn't get it. And she had asked her sales associate and she couldn't get it. And she had this whole rant on Instagram where she was like, I'm Cardi B. How can I not get this bag? It's Hermès.
It's Hermès. There we go. Thank you so much, Maggie. I think our listeners and our viewers will have learned a lot, and it's been so actionable.
Thank you for having me.
And apologies to everyone's bank account, I guess, who's going to get drained, but it'll thank you later in a couple of years when you've made a smart investment. Make sure you like and subscribe to this podcast and then go over to ShopThing right after. Thanks so much. We'll catch you on the next episode.